forward. Okay, Boker Tov, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Get this up the screen here just a second. Why is this not coming up? Don't worry about it. Okay. Well, there. Let's get organized here. So, okay. Boker Tov, we learned the Ilu Nishmat Avigdor Hayam Ben Rachalev Mer Tzvi, and you should know every time I say it, it sounds like it just rolls off the tongue because of the name, but I do think about him every single time I say that. Neshama should have an aliyah. Okay, we're going to look at one last line in chapter 4, Mishnah Zayin or Chet or Tet. I don't know which one it is. The Mishnah itself starts by Rabbi Yishmael beno Omer HaChosech Atzmo Min Adin, who prevents himself or stops himself from serving as a judge. So I don't know what number it is. You have 9. Okay. 7. Yeah, mine is number 7 also. No, right, we're not doing that line. Remember, that was the prior Mishnah. Nope. Rabbi Yishmael beno Omer. All right. Okay. So we're looking at the second half of the Mishnah right now. We're talking about a person who is a judge, a person who's a dayan. Again, we made the distinction between being a dayan or judge in a civil court versus a Jewish court. We're talking about a Jewish court, or what's called a Beit Din. In theory, any 3 people, depending on what the situation is, any 3 people can make up a Beit Din. In the most simplest form, it would be, let's say a person wanted to do Hatarat Nedarim. They made a neder, they made a vow or a promise to do something, or there was a minhag or custom that they'd done their whole lives and they wanted to stop or change. So Hatarat Nedarim can be done with 3 people, and they can even be related to each other, which is not a problem. Not women, men. No.
So it's not 3 people.
3 women. What? They can even be brothers. They can be related to the person doing it. Not in a regular Beit Din. Only in Hatarat Nedarim, he has the lowest threshold for what makes up a Beit Din, and they don't even really have to know very much. It's just that they have to be able to say mutar lach, mutar lach, mutar lach. I was going to say me too.
So if you're mute, you can't be a judge.
Well, I don't know. That's a very good question. If you're mute, can you be a judge? There are hundreds of questions that come up with someone who's mute. What happened about a man who wants to divorce his wife? God forbid. I say God forbid. I shouldn't say that because sometimes it's necessary. When there's a divorce, or someone wants to acquiesce to a certain deal, is the signature enough? Does it have to be a verbal? When a man wants to say Harayat Mekudeshetli, you're betrothed to me. So that's a separate topic. And a whole discussion halacha about the harchinat rosh, when if he understands by just like nodding his head versus saying something. So, but as far as a judge, I don't know. It's a great question. It's a very good question. So let's look at this Mishnah. Rabbi Yishmael beno Omer, HaChosech Atzmo Min Adin, a person who prevents himself from acting as a judge. We discussed that meant a person who thought that there were more qualified individuals, and therefore he steps back from being a dayan, and not saying, I imagine some of you, if not all of you, know the reference, I'm in charge now. You know that expression where it comes from Alexander Haig? Yeah, okay. So if not, it's fine. You can look it up. What's that? Yeah. No, that's because I said so. Because I'm in charge now. That was Alexander Haig. So someone who does that, so we saw this last week, that it leads to some positives. It prevents eva or acrimony, I think is the word, right? Or civil unrest between people, because a person who's a dayan, he has to make a psak, he has to make a decision halacha based on halacha, and not always do the litigants walk out all happy, and peaceful with the dayan. So that's one thing that's off the table. The other is gezel. He has, no matter how good a person is at making decisions in halacha, the potential that somebody could end up making the wrong decision and cause money to go from party A to B by accident, which therefore the money is gezel, theft. He's not a party to that. And also shuvat shav. We talked about the fact that not now, but in times of Beit Mikdash, there was an oath that would be taken in certain cases by a litigant. Let's say, for example, I say, where's the Where's the beef? Where's the pack of beef? I left not that. I'm not going to that commercial. Clara Keller. We're into all kinds of trivia today. Where's that whole package of steaks? How fine that I left with you? I don't know. You never left it here. So there's a shvuah or an oath that will be taken in court that would say, like, you have to swear that he didn't receive it, or it was stolen, or whatever it might be, and that's called Nikitat Chefetz. Again, he would hold out Sefer Torah, which is a really, really powerful statement, and take a shvuah. Yes.
Swearing? They would swear?
Yes. Yes.
Not a friend.
Correct.
Does he need to know?
Does who need to
Wow.
judge? Yes, of course. I'm talking about, when I talked about earlier about not needing to be that bright necessarily, is only when it comes to something of hatarat nadarim, or dissolution of vows.
Okay.
But to be a dayan, a regular dayan, he definitely has to know. And depending on the area of halacha, there are two. When a person gets smicha, like when I got smicha, so it says in the smicha yore, which means you may teach, you may teach. There's a higher level smicha called yadin. You may judge, that you're allowed to be a dayan. Now, that doesn't mean I couldn't be a dayan already, which I have been in certain cases in Chicago, but it means I can't have my own court. I'd have to learn, thank God. Since then, I've learned Choshen Mishpat. Choshen Mishpat is the fourth section, depending on your count, of Shulchan Aruch that deals with civil law. So in order to be a dayan, really, if they have a court and all that, you have to know, definitely have to know halacha, but a beit din. Okay. Thank you. That's a good comment. Right. Shofet for a court and a dayan for a beit din. Very good. So a person still, even though he may know halacha, may have made a mistake. It's possible mistakes are in fact made. So by him not being involved in such cases, the chance of him giving money from party A to party B, and it was a mistake, he's not getting involved in that at all. By the way, just in parentheses, why would it be gezel? Why would it be theft? If I'm the judge and I say you owe her 1,000 shekel and I'm wrong, why is it theft? It was a case that I made a mistake in, because by definition, gneva or theft means that you have something that you're not right. You're not entitled to it. It's not yours, right? So if I walk out of here and I take a pillow from the couch over there because I like it, so I take it home. As soon as I walk out of here, literally, as soon as I walk out, the intention to steal it, then it's gneva, right? We also know there's some things gnevat da'at, where when you try to make somebody think something and it's not true. That's a whole subject by itself, which, by the way, came up this week. I'll just tell you, someone asked me a question. This all works into this Mishne, by the way. Someone asked me a question about, I get this time of year, many parents who say, we want your help in helping decide which school to send our child to. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's Kita Aleph and sometimes it's Kita Zayin, going into middle school. So there's somebody who's trying to decide between Amit and Yeshiva Tichonit. We're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's great. It's good to have to think about the choice. And unfortunately, there aren't many choices in the community, but they're a choice couple. So this couple asked me that there's going to be an open house at both. And the parents are really, really, really leaning towards to one school and not the other school. Can we let him go to the open house of the other school, knowing that he's not going to go there? And so here's the deal. If there's absolutely no chance that he's going to go there, you're not allowed to send him. Why? Gneva da'at, in ona'a. You're making him think that there's hope he's going to go there, and there's no hope. So you can't do that. Right. If there's a chance that he might, you say up front, look, the vast majority of the chance is that you're going to go to X, but and the outside chance it may work out, go through the process there too. Otherwise, it's gneva. It's a form of theft. You're thieving. You're stealing someone's emotions, their thoughts, their hopes. Okay, so now the second part of the Mishnah is the flip side. Hagas libo b'hora'a. It doesn't mean somebody who becomes a dayan, but someone who says, I'm dayan here. I'm in charge. I'm like God's gift to man, and I know everything. Someone who is haughty about his position. Shoteh, he's an idiot, the fool. Rasha, he's an evil individual. The gas ruach, and he's a haughty spirit. Now, the Mishnah could have just said that he's a shoteh. Just leave it at that. It really tears this guy apart, right? It really tears him up. It calls him a shoteh, rasha, and gas ruach. So Why so severe? Why is that so severe? That was a rhetorical question because I'll answer it. Torah is no, but you can, but later because I'm going to try to give mine. If that's okay, and we'll share yours later. Torah, unlike every other, I will use subject. I'm using quote. Torah is the subject. It's life. Unlike any other subject, you cannot ever get to the bottom of anything 100% because it means if you understand, I say I understand this pasuk in Vayikra absolutely perfectly to the bottom, to every single level. You're an idiot, not you. That person's an idiot because he's saying I can understand Hashem's intent with everything. Same thing is true even in halacha. When it comes to halacha, there's no such thing. I can say, look, I understand on Shabbat you're not allowed to cook. I know that, okay? But maybe that's the general topic. But when it comes to all the subcategories and everything else, I can't say I understand everything. I'm saying about me right now. I can't say I understand everything. I know everything or why and how come and how. And then pasuk and Tanakh, just open up just randomly open a Tanakh and point to a pasuk. I can maybe translate it for you. I can maybe tell you what it means, but what does it really mean? I don't know. I'd have to look at the Mefarshim, and even that. When you look at other commentaries, doesn't mean you know everything either. Because there's still another level. Other mitzvot, other areas, let's say, for example, math, science, language arts, all these kind of things. I can say that I can't because I don't know math well, but I can say I've taken I've taken integral calculus. I don't even know what it is, but it sounds fancy. And I learned integral calculus, and I really understand how to do all this stuff. I've reached the level where I'm really good at integral calculus. There's no more omen. There's no more depth. It's deep enough. And there's going to be more stuff coming in quantum mechanics. I actually did watch a video the other day on what quantum mechanics is because it's been coming up a lot because of AI and quantum computers and all that. So I still don't understand what I'm talking about. It sounds cool to say quantum mechanics. Nobody else does too, right? I understand quantum mechanics. So, but you can get what's called la sofosha davar. You can get to the bottom of the matter, not with Torah. So when a person says, I understand Choshen Mishpat. Remember, Choshen Mishpat is in the Shulchan Aruch, is the volume, the section has to do with civil law. I know it backwards and forwards, and I'm an expert, and I understand everything. Because that's really what a person is doing when they're gas lev, when they're like haughty about their knowledge. Now, a person could say, take a person like Rav Kanievsky, Rav Kanievsky, who finished literally all of Torah every year, once a year, made siyum kol haTorah kula. You can't even imagine what's involved in that. I've actually looked at the list of what he would learn every day. It's mind-boggling. He would start, I think it's around 2 a.m. and finish at 10 o'clock at night. He slept for a couple hours. His wife would wake up, make him his tea. I told you the story. He woke up one time, didn't wake up his wife, and he got so involved in his learning that the water overflowed and made a little bit of mess in the case. His wife says, "Nope, never again. I'm making your tea at 2 in the morning." And he learned like 22 hours, 23 hours, 21 hours a day. Okay. And the amount. So he could say he knows Kol Torah Kula, all of Torah, but he still doesn't. He would be the first to tell you he doesn't. Because whatever he can know, it still goes beyond that, because that means if you do know all of Torah, you're saying, I understand the infinite, but you can't. And that here is part of the reason that the Mishne calls him a shota, calls him a rasha, and calls him a gaslev, because he's a fool to think that he can know everything. In other words, he can know the halacha, but how you apply it always is going to change in case to case. The same question can come to me or to somebody else. That's going to get two different answers because of the circumstances. He's a rasha. He's evil because he's perverting Torah. And he's a gaslev. What does it mean he's haughty? So when we learn Mesilat Yesharim, when you've seen books like Avot or any other books that have to do with improving your character traits, we talked about the fact that ga'ava, that haughtiness and being full of pride, is so anathema to Hashem. Hashem himself says, as it were, he and I can't live in the same basket. What does that mean? It means when you have your haughtiness, there's no room for me. When it's all about you and you and you, a person who's a narcissist, a person who's focused on himself with his I, me. Hashem says, you can be you. There's no me in this place. And that's why the Mishne refers to him as such a shota. And the Gemara is actually filled with many, many stories of Chachamim who say, look, we try our best, but we just will never understand everything. I think that's one of the greatest things that Rashi ever taught us was to say, I don't know, because there are a handful of times Rashi says, Ani lo yodeh. I don't understand. He says, I don't understand why this is there. So, in the first place, the question would be, why does Rashi say that? It's not like Rashi comments on every pasuk. Just why does he say Ani lo yodeh? Because he's implying that there is a strong question here. Just he doesn't know what the answer. And I mentioned this, I think, somewhere, that I knew somebody in Chicago, old German Jew. Remember Zupnik? Okay, Rabbi Zupnik. Okay, so he claimed that any time when Rashi said he doesn't know, he knew, but he didn't have a source for his answer. Because if you look in Rashi, he almost always is never giving his opinion on something. He's almost always quoting from somewhere, a midrash, another pasuk, or something else. But the beauty of Rashi is he knew that and to apply that. But he may have had an opinion on something that says, look, I just don't have one comment here because I believe this, but I can't prove it. And when he can't prove it, he says, I don't know. And that's the godless, that's the greatness, in my opinion, of Rashi. So therefore, if someone acts in a haughty fashion regarding being a dayan, there are certain professions, unfortunately, that lend themselves to people becoming full of themselves. But it is what it is. It shows that he is actually lacking da'at, or knowledge. He's lacking wisdom. He's lacking the understanding of what Torah really is.
And humility.
And humility, well, of course. Yeah, the lack of humility is a huge problem. The other problem is the results of that haughtiness. He will do possibly what it says in the first half of the Mishnah. The first half of the Mishnah said, someone who steps back and doesn't act as a judge because there are people he feels are more qualified, he saves the idea of eva, or what's the real word? Not acrimonious, but there's another word in English, tell me. Ill will, hatred, okay. Gezel and Shuat Shav. So we said that he doesn't cause that. This man will, because of his being haughty. Because what is a person who thinks they know everything never going to say? I'm wrong. I made a mistake. Very important for people to understand that we all make mistakes. Some make big mistakes, some are little mistakes, but every single person makes mistakes. And sometimes, the best is to own up to it. I try to instill it in my own children over many years, and grandchildren, but to friends and to students. Like if you made a mistake, don't try to hide it. It's the worst thing you do, because it said, I don't remember who said it, but it says if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything, right? Because if you tell a lie, you have to remember. Wait, did I say I was there at 2:00 or 1:00? I don't remember. So, but you tell the truth. It's the truth. So when a person makes a mistake, they have to own it. That's why that there in both in Yerushalmi and Bavli, there is a Gemara called Horiot. Horiot is about decisions, mistaken decisions by the Beit Din, by the Sanhedrin. What happens when the Sanhedrin makes a ruling and said, I'm making something up, it doesn't say this, that everyone has to bring a korban every single Tuesday. Now, or they're supposed to eat the korban on Shabbat by cooking it on Shabbat in their home. Okay, so now what? So there's a distinction made if it's a halacha that everyone knows and they obviously knew it was a mistake, versus what if it was an actual mistake that people relied on? Does the Beit Din have, does Sanhedrin bring a korban as a forgiveness? Does the person have to bring a korban? It's one of the more difficult. It's the shortest one in Bavli. It's 14 blat, I think. And the Yerushalmi is the only one that's longer than in Bavli. It's 19. But it has all these. What if I make a mistake? As a dayan, as a shofet, as Beit Din, as a Sanhedrin, people make mistakes. Look in the Shulchan Aruch. What happens when you forget where you're in the middle of the Shemona Esrei? What happens if you said, you didn't say Yalav Yavu? What happens? And on and on and on. They're people. That's what it's taken into account in halacha. So when you have a dayan who is a gas ruach or gas lev, someone who's like, I know it all, he's not open to saying I'm wrong. That's a very big problem, and it causes all these other problems that were mentioned in the first half. The Rambam in Hilchot Talmud Torah, when it talks about the area about learning Torah, teaching Torah, says that a gas lev is one who has no business teaching, no business paskening, deciding halacha, and he says as follows: Hey marbim machloket, they increase divisiveness. Hey marchivim et haolam, they destroy the world. I have to read what I wrote here. Torah, and they extinguished the light or the flame of Torah. They think he was pretty not happy when people did that. Amar Shlomo HaMelech. He quotes Shlomo said, Achazulanu shualim shualim ktanim mechabdim karamim. It's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim, which is very negative. He's saying about them that the basically like foxes in the hen house in a sense. He doesn't. That's not exactly the meaning, but it's very strange words that the Rambam uses. He destroys worlds and he extinguishes the light of Torah. And there's plenty of things the Rambam talks about when people do things wrong, whether it's stealing, murder, I mean, some big serious things. But he doesn't necessarily go to the saying he's destroying the world and he's putting out the light of Torah. Because again, the Rambam is very much b'shitato. It goes according to his opinion, which is that a person who is who is filled with pride, remember, not proud, he's filled with pride, is horrible. It's a horrible character trait. I'm going to read something here I have on my screen. Just a minute, get on the screen. Okay. There is a man who lived in the 18th century whose name I only came across this not that long ago. I have the sefer called Lekute Batar Lekute. It's a compilation of sayings from the Midrash and from the Gemara and all. And 100 shekels. Anyone who can tell me where the expression comes from, Lekute Batar Lekute. But you have to do it without tell me without looking it up. And there's the author of the book is a man named Mordechai Menshachiz, I think it's pronounced. He was, if you ever heard of the Zlotchover Rebbe. It's one, I actually knew the name, but the Hasidus, but I didn't know who it is. Anyways, he was a student of his. That makes a big difference in your lives. I'm sure you're really thrilled. Okay, anyways, so in his book, he kind of summarizes this Mishnah. I'm going to read to you as follows. It has almost a midrashic look at the first part of the Mishnah. We said that a person who saves himself from becoming a judge, which meant he prevents himself, stops himself. Listen what he says. He says as follows: Atzmo milashon atzmiuto, anuchioto. When a person who's a dayan leaves his self, his ego outside, meaning he does be a dayan, he acts as a dayan, he acts as a judge, but he leaves his atzmo, himself, outside. That's a good thing. A person who's smart and wise enough to leave his own personal feelings, opinions, his sense of worth and value of like, I'm so important, and put that outside the door. His own personal opinion doesn't come into the question here at all in this case. He, by leaving his atzmut, is himself outside. But acting as a judge, that itself will prevent Eva, Gezel, and Shuat Shav. But yes. Correct. I'm coming to that actually. Yes, excellent. If nothing is there blinding him, so to speak, meaning his own perspective, his own sense of values, his own whatever it might be, he leaves himself, his ego, checks it at the door, then they can come to truth. Lumato, im anuchioto mishtatef b'achatadin. If he brings himself, his ego, his perspective into this, meaning not his halachic perspective, but his biases. That's considered a person who is full of haughtiness in teaching. Then everyone's going to see him for who he really is. What Martin said just now is exactly correct. I know I'm not going to go into the whole story now, but I sat a couple times in a jury, and yes, when you're asked, can you leave your biases at the door? I was asked, right. So, right, and you have to be honest. Like, I still remember one of the questions I was asked was, "Are you biased against someone who speaks with a thick Southern accent?" Now, I don't know if you know this, but it is a fact that people live in the northern part of the United States, such as I did, and most of us from the States did, have a little bit in their head of a bias of someone who speaks the Southern. I don't say I do that, but they'll speak slower to them. They may think they're dumb. It's a fact. It's a known fact. So I will. I was asked this question: will you have any problem? Like this person, and the guy had not just a thick accent. He was just like I could hardly understand what he was saying, but I still, and did I did sit in the jury. In any case, the judge is the same thing, though. The judge has to believe his. No, let's say, for example, there's a court case in front of me, and the case has to do with lawyers. A lawyer's getting sued for malpractice. Let's just say, and I don't. Let's just say I hate lawyers. I'm not like William Shakespeare, who said, "First kill all the lawyers." But he didn't say dentists, at least, they were much further down on the list, I'm sure. But let's say there's a court case, and let's say I have a tremendous bias against lawyers. I can't bring that bias in. I have people who ask me questions sometimes, and I have a bias in my own personal approach in Torah that I think something, but it's not halachic per se. It's not a halacha. It's an approach. It's more philosophical. I have to answer based on that person, Basher Husham, who that person is, and not take into my own feelings into that, unless of course it's a halachic issue. So this Mishne, kind of summing up this Mishne, we have, it's not just about Dayanim. It's not just, it is geared, and this next Mishne we're going to get to now is also geared towards Dayanim or judges, but it's really about all of us. It's our approach to life, how we cannot feel, remember, this is still Pirke Avot, which means it's still life lessons for us. And 99% of the people who are going to read Pirke Avot are not Dayanim. They're not going to be Dayanim. So why have that in there? Again, to give us a life lesson that you, or somebody can get full of themselves sometimes. It's possible, right? And when you do, this is what happens. And it could be as simple as not being an official judge, but it could be something you're judging something within your own life or someone in your family. I don't mean judging like being judgmental. I'm saying you're trying to help make a decision. Maybe it's a better way to say it. The idea of you're always right. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. I do know people like that they feel that they are always right. You don't grow that way. You really, matter of fact, you shrink. And you lose the respect of people. I had one time. I did something in the shul in Chicago once that was it was stupid. It was, I sent out a letter about something, and it was one that really should have been run past the president. I just sent it out as an email or a letter. I don't remember anymore. And it came back to me that he was really mad at me. And 98% of the time I got along with the presidents and the shul people. I really had very, 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 very little problem. I mean, like this much. I was blessed. But he was 100% right. And I realized that as soon as I heard that he was upset, he didn't come to me, but I heard like this, that he was upset. So he came to shul, Shabbat morning. I walked over to him before davening. I said, this is the place or the time, but I apologize. We'll talk after davening. And we talked. Everything was fine. There's a sign I used to have in the shul said, no excuses, just results. And that's how I try to live. Try. If you make a mistake, I don't want your excuses. Okay, fix it. Fix it. One thing I say a lot, which my wife doesn't particularly care about, is not my problem. What about blah, blah, blah? I said, not my problem. I like to let things bother me that's my problem, or I can do something about it. But if it's not my problem, it's not my problem. So that's the opposite end.
You don't carry it.
It's right. I don't carry it. It's not I don't care at all, but I know I don't carry it. But I also, it's not that I don't care. It's that even if I cared, I can't do anything about it anyway. So it's not my problem. What happens if so-and-so is in the United States on a trip, they missed their flight? Oh, it's not my problem. But if someone's coming to see me, someone I want to see, or I'm trying to make it, that I do care, that I want to try second help them out. But, okay. And it took me a long time to get to that. I think it's a good thing, in my opinion. Because if a person cares about every single solitary thing, even the things you can't do anything about, you eat yourself up. It comes to, by the way, with worry as well. My mom, she should live and be well, had she's still a bit of a worry, but she's not the mental capacity to be a worrier much anymore. But she was a worrier, big worrier. And if she didn't have what to worry about, she'd worry. She doesn't have something to worry about. I still remember the week before my bar mitzvah, she started crying. I said, Mom, what's wrong? She says, everything's ready. I said, what do you mean? She says, there's nothing else to do. Something might go wrong. Like she was told, I said, Mom, there's nothing. It's just like a person can only, a cloud gadol, I actually saw this in Reader's Digest I'm quoting from many years ago. You should only worry about things that you can do something about. In other words, if it's going to be, let's say you're planning an outdoor event tomorrow, it's not supposed to rain, but let's say it's going to rain. So you can be worried about it or concerned and make alternate arrangements, right? But if there's something you can't affect, what if the Histadrut goes on strike next week and there's no garbage collection? There's no garbage collection. So I'm going to sit here and worry about the garbage going to pile up outside. No, I'm not, because I can't do anything. It doesn't help. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of mental capacity.
It's easy to say.
But it's very easy to say. Yeah. I guess growing up with someone who was a big worrier, maybe one who got to the point to be able to say, it's not my problem. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure not. Okay, so let's take a look at the next Mishnah. Time? Okay, good. We have time. Okay, next Mishnah. Take another swig of the vodka. Yeah, what, me worry? Yeah, that's right. I used to get Mad Magazine every time I was sick, which is why once in a while I pretended to be sick, just to get Mad Magazine. It's like I pretended I needed glasses. Everyone was getting glasses. I was like third or fourth grade and went to the Dr. Gutstein and took the vision test, and he told my father out of the room, he says, if your son reads like he pretends, he's blind, legally blind. The big giant E, I said, Q, but then a year later I needed glasses. Great.
Oh.
Dummy. Okay. Rabbi Yishmael no, I did that. Next Mishnah. Hu haya omer. This is again Rabbi Yishmael. This Mishnah, the one we just did, this one are kind of like, not just kind of, they are connected in a sense that not only did he say them, but it's also a follow-up or almost a flip side of the other Mishnah. Hu haya omer. He actually inserts something almost poetic in here. Al tihi dan yechidi. A person should not be a sole dayan, meaning being a dayan or a judge in a beit din by himself. Well, of course not. You have to have three at least, right? We'll see. She'ein dan yechidi ela echad. That's a very strange expression, and it's poetic because there's no such thing as a single judge except one. What's echad? Hashem. Hashem is the only judge who's a dan yechidi. V'al tomar, and don't say to the other judges who join you on the Beit Din, kablu da'ati, you have to accept my opinion. Shein reshayim, they're allowed to say what they want to say. Lo ata, you have no right to force them. Okay, so what's going on? There's a lot here to talk about. First of all, a person in theory, a person who is a tremendous Talmid Chacham, a person who is very, very knowledgeable, can, in theory, what's called a mumche, or an expert, could in theory be a dayan by himself. In theory. It's not done. Generally, it's not done because for the potential reason of not being 100% straight. Not that he wouldn't be straight, but there could be things he's not considering, and then other people may say something, which is why you have to have a couple other people in the Beit Din. It's an issue of anava. It's an issue of humility. The first Mishnah Rabbi Yishmael was talking about was about lack of humility. It's like, look at me, the dayan. This one is about anava. This one is about being, or the first half of the other Mishnah was also about anava, because it was saying, because he's stepping back, look, the other people are more worthy than me. Here he's saying you shouldn't be a dan yechidi, because even though you might feel you can, out of pure humility, it's absolutely wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Besides which, and maybe on a more practical level, is that other people involved will give you some insight you might have missed. Someone might ask you a question, and to you it's clear as day, the answer. Then they may say, this has happened to me plenty of times, not just in halacha questions, just questions in general. Well, wait a minute, what about X? Yeah, I never thought about that, right? I make a plan. I say to Andy, okay, I'm going to go into Yerushalayim tomorrow, and then there's a, I do. I want to go to this. There's a safer I want to go get, and I'm going to come back. Blah 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 blah. I said, well, you know that they're talking about another massive demonstration, right? Oh, but in my mind, I'm already getting on the bus, so that's a minor thing until you get stuck in it. But when there are others involved in a decision, when there are others involved in doing the right thing, there's more chance that it'll come out a din emet, a true justice will be served in that particular case. The other day I told, oh, I didn't say it here. I know that. I said it to a person, so I'm going to say it now. In Hebrew, when you have a committee, let's say an educational committee, it's called in Hebrew Va'ad HaChinuch. A Va'ad, Vav Ayin Dalet, means committee. Years ago, I went to check and I thought I was right, and it turned out I was, that the shoresh of the word, now, not, oh, you would think the shoresh is Vav Ayin Dalet, it's only 3 letters. In Hebrew, not every word that's even 3 letters is its own shoresh, because there's all kinds of interesting things. And sometimes you come across a word in the Torah that has only 1 letter out of the whole shoresh in the word. Vayach, and he struck. The only part of the shoresh there is the kaf. The vav, the yud, and the chaf are not part of, the vav and the yud have nothing to do with the shoresh, or the root of the word. Never mind. I don't know why I digressed to there. In any case, so what is the shoresh? What is the root word of va'ad? It's ya'ad, yud ayin daled. So if you drive with Hebrew ways, you'll hear, higatem leya'ad. You've arrived at your destination. Ya'ad means destination. What in the world does committee have to do with destination? So I said that a va'ad without a ya'ad is a waste of time. A committee without a destination is a waste of time. You have to have goals. You have to have your eyes on the prize. You can argue and discuss and yell and scream if you need to, but ultimately you have a specific goal you're working towards, a destination. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. And the truth is that when it comes to,
I said, wow.
Thank you. That's original.
To be a sign.
Yeah, I know. I thought about making something every vibe without a yad, but most people won't understand the connection necessarily. But but now you do. It's yeah. To me, it was obvious when I heard it, when I looked at the word. Anywho, so that's also that when you have a court case, part of the decision-making process, if it's a single judge, could be that he wants to show his knowledge in his psak halacha. Look how much I'm quote the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch, and the Aruch HaShulchan, the Shulchan Aruch Atid, and then if you have other people, you said, just look Shulchan Aruch Simon Shin Taf, and it's going to tell you this and this and this, and that's the psak. It's obvious. And so, oh yeah, okay, I'm making this stuff up. Obviously, it doesn't go. Hopefully, not to that extreme, but you have to have a specific goal. In addition to that, Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet. Now, remember, Shlomo wrote 3 things: Kohelet, Mishle, and Shir HaShirim. All different types and different themes and everything else. But Shlomo wrote, it has a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Tovim hashanayim min ha'echad. 2 are better than 1. And the question is, why? Why are 2 better than 1? So he says in the next pasuk, Ki im yiplu ha'echad yakim et chaverohu. Because if one guy falls, the other one can help him pick him up. Ve'ilu ha'echad she'ipol ve'en sheni lahakimo. If a person is by himself and he falls, there's no second person to lift him up. It's meant, of course, as a metaphor that when a person's down, psychologically, emotionally, having a shoulder to cry on is helpful to help raise them. Physically, God forbid a person falls, the other person can be there to help them up. And when it comes to whether it's halacha or things in life, it's always good to have someone to bounce an idea off, a sounding board. I don't want your decision. I just need you to listen to whatever it might be. So that's also part of the basis of why there have to be at least 2 dayanim. But the halacha is you can't have a beit din that's equal. An even number. Always has to be an odd number for a very specific reason. Otherwise, you end up with the equivalent of a hung jury, but a hung dayanim, so to speak, God forbid. You have 2. So now that's why the Sanhedrin was 71, not 70. That's why beit din is 3, 23, and 71. And the capital case is another. Not nowadays. Now it's just 3. Oh, you can have it bigger. You could have 11. There's no problem with that. Problem becomes everyone wants to get their opinion and She'ein. And also Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet doesn't make any distinction between a person who's very smart, very wise, and very important, or someone who's just a common person who does not that big Talmud Chacham. Meaning everybody needs to have somebody else that they can talk to, or someone they can confide in, or someone can unburden themselves. That's how they'll say the Olim Chaveiro. We're going to get to that Mishne, which has a list of many, many things of how one can acquire. When I say acquire, it means Torah becomes a true part of their life. One is Hanosei Olim Chaveiro, that you help carry the burden with your friend. All these things tie into this. And it says, "She'ein yechidi ela echad." There is no single judge except the echad. Echad meaning Hashem. And yet, we see in Midrash, I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. At the beginning of the Torah, Hashem says, "Na'aseh adam kitzalmenu chidmutenu." Let us make man in our image and our form. Let us. Like, who's he talking to? So Rashi quotes the Midrash. What's that? The queen. That's right. He says, so Rashi says that it's a lesson Hashem is teaching us. It says, Nimlach el ha-melachim. Malachim. He went, understand the difference. Milachim is the plural of king. Melech, milachim. Malachim means angels. Okay, it's the word malach and melech. And it's a big difference. So Nimlach el ha-malachim. He went to the angels and said, what do you think? Should we create man or should we not create man? Is it good? Is he asking the angels? Like, he's God. He can make his own decisions. He's been doing it for a long time, like forever, literally. So Rashi says, we learn God's humility from this spot. What does that mean? That when a person needs to hear nice music, maybe. Okay. Is it my phone? Not my phone. No. Okay. So hear nice music. When a person should never be haughty because Hashem himself isn't haughty. Even though he has every reason to be, right? He has every reason to be because he's God. But he's teaching us that when a person is making decisions, they can consult somebody else because he himself consulted. There's also
That's the hierarchy.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's also another place. Rev J.J. Schechter, I gave this to us when I was in class with him 21 years ago. I'll find it. There's a source. I'm trying to remember where it was. That says that Hashem himself teaches us to always try to improve. Well, Hashem is perfect. So what does that mean? So he said that there's a midrash that says that Hashem created 5 worlds before this. 5 worlds, 6. This is 6, and then every one of them he literally crushed up and threw away. And he said, and then he created this world. Then he said, "Dein hanyan li, v'dein lo hanyan li." Aramaic means these I'm not happy with, and this one I am happy with. Again, version 1.0 is all God needs. He doesn't need 1.2 and rebooting and all. No. So again, so the idea being that when you do something, work on a project, it falls apart. It's not what you anticipated. It doesn't happen. Hashem says, "Look, me too. You're in good company." It also says something in the same area about when a person is going to speak publicly to be prepared. That Hashem quote, prepared himself when he spoke to Am Yisrael. That's one I really want to find. Anyways, so I want to talk a little bit more next week about this idea, just a little bit more about only Hashem is the Dan Yechidi. And then we'll do the second part of that Mishne as well. Have a great day and Shabbat Shalom. Welcome.
Good. Puff the magic.
What about Puff the Magic Dragon? Wait, I have a question here. Susie, how can a judge or anyone leave his background or experiences? Isn't it a part of us? We can be fair. Can we really be objective? Okay. I want to read this question. I got a question that came in. I want to read it and I want to answer. I want to address it. How can a judge or anyone leave his background or experiences? Isn't it a part of us? We can be fair. Can we really be objective? Okay, it's a great question. One of the things that we were told when we were being seated for a jury was you don't have to leave your life experience outside. You could bring your common sense. No, you don't have to base it only on what's being said at the trial. You can also bring some. If someone says, the guy said, "There's no way I killed my wife," and then he's sitting there like, sharpening his knife kind of thing, and has a picture of her with a knife through it. Okay, your common sense tells you maybe he did. Okay, so you can leave that. We're talking about is using your bias, your approach to something when there's many different ways to look at it. You have to be able to listen to and hear what the case is before you can render a decision. You're not allowed as a Dayan, you're not allowed to make a decision. Well, first of all, after you've heard only one half of the story, meaning one litigant. You're also not allowed to make a decision until you have heard both sides and deliberated. You have to go into deliberations and discuss the 3 Dayanim or plus, have to sit and talk. You're right, Susie, you can't leave your life experience, your background out, but you're not allowed to bring your biases to sway a case one way or the other that's not halachically based. That help? Good, okay.
Yes,
So,
yes, thank you.
Court, justice. These are the questions that we're at,
yes,
or
Right.
should be at.